Hey Jeremy, taking a look at your animation and I think it's looking pretty good. Some pretty solid blocking going in here. Just a real quick couple of notes that I see first off, and I'll go through and explain this better, is that you need to start thinking about stronger poses and making sure that your body is used in those. Everything we do originates from the hips. So even if he's just leaning forward, these hips have got to move somewhere. It may be just a slight shift, but they are going to go somewhere. The other thing is that it's always good to have a frame counter, and I included a frame counter in here, down here, these numbers, so that when people critique this, they can say, you know, I see a pop at, you know, frame 38 or whatever. Or I think your pose at frame 126 could be pushed a little further or whatever. It just helps clarify what they're talking about to you, and it helps you in the end. So I know in Maya there is a way to do it. You may have to look it up because I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's under display and then heads up display. I think you can get a frame counter from there. If not, I know there's a bunch of scripts on like high-end 3D that that'll do it. So yeah, with that being the case, let's go ahead and jump in. We'll play it through. I'm in After Effects. This is the only way I could figure out how to do this for you. So it's got to preload the frames, and then it'll play back. So I'm going to watch it again. Okay, man. So again, this is looking good. I see a few minor things and a few major things, and you know, trust. You know, I've gone through this too. I made the same kind of, I won't call them mistakes, but the same choices that just comes off a little insincere, and your mechanics aren't quite right when you do these things. So my first big one is right here where he's doing his jumps. You know, you've got your first one, and I know this is in blocking, so you've got your first one is 1, 2, 3, 4 frames before it hits, so I'm going to say you're using probably somewhere between 4 and 8 frames to get down there. Okay, so we hit at 146, hold to 147, and then he's back up at 148. Now, something like this is too much contrast. The spacing you have going here, you know, you're here 1 frame, right? Especially looking in the knees, and here's where your hips are, to the next frame. You know, those legs are straightening out, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but see the contrast there? It's just too big for a 1 frame transition. It comes off as a pop. You need at least probably 2 more frames in there of ease in and ease out and ease in. So really you want to put 3 frames between it. So by 48, what you would have, sorry, trying to, so by 48, if you had the previous scene, so let me go back to that one, 48, Stop it. Sorry, pen's acting up. You would still be kind of bent, and the body would still be a little lower. So see what I'm saying? It's still a little bent, because here's your hips right here. Okay, let me change that. Here's your hips. You know, the red's your legs. Come on. Sorry. Boom. Not only that, but like your hips don't seem to travel anywhere except directly up. So what you would want to do is push his hips all the way that way, so that maybe they're up over here, you know, on the back side, just to give it a little bit of contrast. Sorry, I know that keeps popping up, because right now he's just kind of going straight up, and that's not real appealing. So just by pushing him back a little bit more, and by the time you hit 49, so let's see, you want 1, 2, 3, 4. So by the time you hit 49, you're fine to be at full extension, but again, kind of back more. And then his legs, go ahead and have them, you know, yeah, be straight, but give them a little. See how this one's bowing in like that? You don't want that. That's not good. You want it bowing out, so it's like his knee turns in, you know. So you either need to push this idea of his knee being turned in to be something more like this, with his toes kind of right here. Here's his heel, and it's really pushed up, and then this leg's kind of coming in and doing a similar thing. See what I'm saying? And like you're really contorting his body. So that maybe this arm's out here, and then this arm's down here, and he's kind of leaning this way. I know it's not the most super clean thing, but you see what I'm saying? So your line of action, here, let me get a different color. Your line of action would be something more like this through the pose versus what you have right now, which is this with this. I mean, it works. Don't get me wrong, it works, but it's not supporting the physical weight of this character. So my suggestion would be to put a little bend back in this guy's leg and keep this kind of bend that you've got going in this guy's leg. And I know he's raising up and he's all excited, but keep that going, because you have this nice silhouette right here, which could actually be pushed further. You could push it off of his leg so that he's really leaning in here, right? And then maybe this leg, maybe this leg comes out a little more here and down, so that you're creating a triangle You know what I mean? So you're creating the space. Sorry, keep hitting the wrong button. And that would pull his head over, and I would pull it down to really exaggerate the fact that he's like really getting into this thing. He just really wants to win at this. He's so excited. And then what I would do is for his arms, let me get a different color for his arms. For his arms, I would go ahead and you know, because that's roughly where the shoulder is on this guy. Pull it back more so that this hand has a better silhouette. Right? He's got a better silhouette on this hand. And then, come on. The other hand, which is kind of back over in here, I would honestly have it maybe come. You could do this two ways. You could continue the line of action down this way and out, and you hide it behind the gamepad. So if this right here is your gamepad, here's his hand right here, right? You're just hiding the other arm's path of action silhouette behind it, right? Along with this blue one. So you could do something like that, or you could bring his elbow out. So again, here's our gamepad. Here's his hand. And it comes out more right here. You know, so that you're creating that space. But ultimately, you need something a little more refined for this pose, in my opinion. This is a high energy pose, and you really need to sell that stretch. So I'm sorry. So you've got your pose here, then your next pose, you've already got him going down on the next pose. So he goes down. I would actually add a frame in here where you know, this next pose, he's still following through his motion. So he was down, coming up, either coming up or coming down. I would probably, I don't know, this is one you got to play with, but if you're gonna have him come back down on this, you know, if you track the body, here's where the body is, here's where it is now, that's fine. So have him come down. Right? So he's down. Have him do a reverse on his spine. Have a reverse on the spine and kind of a reverse on the head. So that you really get the sense that since his head is so large, it's working against physics, you know. It's really getting the weight thrown into it. The heck? So you've got this pose where the head was forward, and as he comes down, everything comes just flying back. And it, you know, I'm not drawing this perfect, and it's very, very, very over exaggerated, but we're talking little bits here. So yeah, and then you can settle into this pose and hold that and kind of go through that whole motion again. But just even in blocking, you need to start thinking about things like overlap and overshoot and those types of things, just so that it feels like there's some weight to it and how the body moves. So he starts here, right? He's kind of forward, you know. I'm sorry. He starts here and he's kind of forward, you know, leaning into it. Put a little more lean on him. Doesn't have to be a lot, but put a more lean on him, so that you feel like he's really into this thing. Maybe cock his head to the, you know, to the side here, so that you get something more along the lines of this for the head, you know. And then on this guy, pull him back a little bit. Start pulling him back, you know. Maintain the shape you've got pretty much right now with a little more arc to it, and keep that head forward a little more and down, because that's going to generate a little more drag and give you a little bit better sense of force and the fact that he's really looking at something. And then you've pushed back, and maybe now would be the time to reverse the arc, so that now he's upright, he's looking back at it. And then your next one, I actually think, if you're here, this pose isn't right. I'm sorry, I drew that wrong. Let me just erase that. So that pose then becomes this pose, because he's coming back down, you know. Then you want to have a little drag on the upper body, and then you settle into something again with a little more, if this is your hips, a little more arc to it. Not a lot, but just a little, so that we really see that all these things have weight. Because, I mean, that's the biggest thing, is you want to make sure that your animation has a sense of weight. So when we go back and look, it's ease out, fast up, ease down, hit. You may have some residual energy that you want to show by him kind of bobbing up and down, and then do the same thing on these last ones, but vary him up, do different, make him move side to side, you know, so that the hips aren't just locked in place going it looks very mechanical. Okay, so that's one thing. One major thing I see, just right through there. I mean, it's looking good. I just think you can push it way further. Another thing is right in here. You're doing a lot with the arms, but not the body. So here, his whole body should be going down, right? So he should wind up like down here, for as big a gesture as that is with his arms. Here to here, this body should be here, down. And you need an anticipation. So what I would do, I mean, you've got the body here, right? And you actually have this really nice pose, which I think you can still push even further. You can push that body arc more. You know, make it a super C curve, so that you're coming out to like here, you know, and it would look something like that, you know, and then you've got this nice line of action with the foot here, and this guy you could bring a little more forward and back and up on his toe and just really sell that pose. The other thing I would do on this particular pose is these hands shouldn't overlap like that. You're really losing a lot of silhouette. So we got his head, boom, his head, here's his arm. I would bring that down and over, and let's see a little bit more of those fingers. And what I might do is reverse the thumb. Instead of having the thumb go this way, like what you've got, I might reverse it to go that way, to complement this open-handedness. So I've got that. I might make one of my fingers kind of point and then one, you know, so we have a shape kind of more like that. And then that gives us room for this other arm to be placed out here doing its thing. Without having to worry about being able to be seen. Does that make sense? Let me clean this guy up. So what I would do is have fingers, you know, something more like that. And that just gives you a stronger silhouette. And it makes it more clear. You can clearly read what the other hand is doing. Especially with this Xbox controller, right? So from there though, you're coming back, and again, your body stays stationary. Take this guy, bring it back a little. It doesn't have to be a lot. Maybe just back to here. But it's all about spacing and keeping the body involved. Okay? Maybe even have him hunkered down a little bit, you know? Have him kind of do an arc so that when he's coming back, his body actually goes up and over, you know, just a hair into this position. And then when he does this, throw in an anticipation. And this is one of the biggest things I learned when blocking, is that you've got to go ahead and start throwing in a small amount of detail into it, as far as here's an anticipation, so that you understand what this action is, or a breakdown. It just helps keep it clearer. So by the time you hit, I don't know, let's see, so there's your drop is at 55. By the time you hit 52, he needs to be like up, you know, up with his arms up in front of him. Sorry, I'm trying to, this is the first time I've done this, so I'm kind of getting used to it. So there's arm 1, There is arm 2, if you can kind of get the sense of what I'm doing. But he comes up for this anticipation, and maybe he leans his head back, so his head's back here. You know, and this foot's almost pretty much straight. You know, here's your toe, your knee's about a little higher, you know, and it's coming straight in and it's feeding this line of action down. Whereas with the other leg, you might be able to get away with having it still a little bent, but maybe it's less bent. You know. So you wind up with something more along the lines of that. And what you're getting is this big sweeping motion up. Big, huge motion up. And I may be exaggerating the head a little bit. You'll have to play with it. But his head comes back. His arms come up. And actually, I would take the arms and really push those. So like this outside arm, I would like go ahead and bring it up. You know, there's the hand, there's that controller. This other one, I might bring it out to the side here, so that when you come down on your next frame, let's see, can I copy all that? No, I can't. I can't. So anyways, let me just redraw that real quick. So head, body, legs, you know, your knees up here, your body's up here. This leg's getting a little more straight. This arm comes out and up. And he's all, dang. And this one maybe comes up and out. You know, like that, so that when you go to this, there's a major contrast. Because what I don't see right now is that contrast in your poses. It's just literally the arms going down. Right? Boom. This will make a huge difference. You really need to play that up because that's a huge moment. Okay? And basically all of this in the middle, you need to be getting the body more involved in it. You know, more overlap, things like that. And again, you know, blocking is blocking, and you only need to do so much, but you need to have at least enough information that you know kind of what's going on. And from some of these poses to poses, the body's just not moving enough. You know, so just be sure you're working out those transitions. Be careful of stuff like this. It's very repetitive and it's very twinny, and that can look a little silly sometimes if you don't do it right. Twinning is just something to stay away from. Twinning is where something looks the same. A B A B A B A B. You know what I mean? So. This little cat guy, I think it'd be cool if instead of scooting his butt up, you leave his butt where it is back here, and you scoot his body back, to me that would make a lot more sense. It's like he's lazily, getting up to tell this dude, chill, don't worry about it, whatever it is he's saying. He's just kind of lazily pushed himself up and gonna say something. I like this pose. I like this pose a lot. And I think with this guy, all you need to do is push the arc on the body. Push the arc like 25% more. And maybe drop his whole body down to like here, so that the knees still have space, but they're close to touching. You don't want to make a tangent, but the other thing I would do is pull this. Sorry, my thing's acting up on me. This arm out, so that